Have you ever wondered, how can I support black businesses? Where can I go to support black businesses? Well, I'll tell you where. You make sure you bring yourself down to Fashion Meets Music.
Fashion Meets Music.
Fashion Meets Music!
So Fashion Meets Music started when I was actually living in the States, and as a creative myself, it was very hard to get my own designs into events and shows. And everyone around me was a creative, so I just decided to start my own event. And the whole concept was that it was going to be a retail space with an event state of mind.
So we're able to do clothing, working with new designers, well-established designers, but we also do events. We do music events, we do fashion shows, and we amalgamate all of them into FMM, Fashion Meets Music.
Could you introduce yourself and what you do?
So my name's Ricardo. I'm the creative director of a luxury headwear brand called Ricalis. It started from me trying to create pieces for myself as a dancer.
Our first clothing brand was Lyrics for Lyrics, or L for L. We then moved Fashion Meets Music to Camden. Camden obviously rhymes with Mandem, and we decided to start from there, and it did really well. Sometimes your work that you just screwed up and put in the bin is the one that everybody wants or likes or shares or buys.
We were all planning a trip to go to Mexico, Cancun, for a festival. We caught the idea of actually all these brands are making codes. We see that Ankara, which is the main material that we use, which is traditional, I guess, West African sort of clothing or material. We saw that actually we can make codes.
We make children's clothing. It's telling the story of Ghana and what the Adinkra symbols mean.
A lot of people, they had standard backpacks, but with the standard backpacks, that meant that pickpockets can get into their stuff without them even realising. And me and bro were just thinking, just having that random conversation and thinking to ourselves, okay, how are we going to improve the backpack and make it much brittle?
We started back in Westfield, and he was doing hats, and he had like kind of diamantes in his hats, and he used to glue every stone in his hat. That was how he started. I think what we are finding is a lot more of mixed media.
So one brand that I really loved, they were in our first pop-up in Westfield, was High Spirit. So they were two brothers that basically designed these theft-proof backpacks. It opened inside instead of the outside, so the zip was kind of on their back. But I loved just the whole idea of it, how it came about. They were in New York and walking around, and basically the idea came to them just because of theft and pickpockets and stuff. Their brand was a brand that always stuck out to me because we kind of saw that from the concept to where it is now.
We've seen brands come in and two independent brands come in, don't really know each other, and by the end of the cycle they put together like a joint collection. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but I love the idea that you've actually tried it and you can walk away from that and understand what that's from.
So on Thursday, we basically went back to our old stomping grounds, showing everyone all our previous pop-ups, all our old stores, our old projects. So this is the location of our first ever pop-up. This was the trial pop-up to start all pop-ups. The window right here was a huge, massive wedding dress made out of bubble wrap. Yeah, everyone used to stop, take pictures. It was like a huge centerpiece. For the launch for this store, we actually had a flash mob that started at Camden Station and they strutted all the way down to this store, and then we had like a big red carpet event. This store was really the main store that was meant to be a 5-week pop-up, and we ended up being here for 6 months. One of the So this video is actually our launch at Westfield, Stratford. It was one of the first of its kind. We had about 30 plus designers, independent brands. A lot of them, it was their first time being in a store, and especially being in a store in the mall.
I worked with Lizzie, where we were both fashion tutors. I was her support tutor.
We collaborated with Big Creative Education.
We went 3 or 4 years together, you know, bringing up young individuals who wanted to have a career in the fashion industry.
All the students from the fashion class involved as part of helping with the shows, performances, helping with the designers.
It was an amazing experience seeing how she really delved into helping young people and trying to actually make it so tangible for them to get into business. You know, she really instilled that there was a lot of things they could be doing in between their learning, in between their development, and then obviously after their development as well. And seeing her passion and drive to help young people was something that inspired me to do exactly the same.
I feel like it's quite uniform. Yeah, changed a lot, and it looks quite uniform, which is not really what Camden was about.
What was it about before?
Originality, creativity, everyone's putting different things in. I understand obviously kind of like a pink dribble. It looks really different, really different. There's a lot more kind of working space here as well. So, which is good for small companies to have workspace to work in. And then it's a movement of creators actually selling stuff and being able to showcase their brands. Naturally, how the brand has grown is more so by what we hear from people coming in. The business is quite strong because it very much veers on myself and Danicka's kind of strengths. My kind of background is working with young people and working with communities and working kind of like strategic kind of partnerships. Hers is very creative. She was in film and production within the States as well. So it's kind of when you mesh it all together, it really is how it works. I mean, it's a fact that women, and definitely Black women, are less successful kind of funding, and support out there is kind of limited anyway. We are now kind of in that kind of space as older business women, Black business women, and there's a lot of people like us that are struggling, and funding and support usually stops for people around 25, 30 if you're lucky, depending on what kind of support it was. Done some work with the Art Council and with the Wedding Council solely for women over the age of 30 from kind of Black communities, and the response was like overwhelming. But a lot of women that were sitting at home saying, I've got this skill that I can actually monetize from, but how do I do this and what do I need to do for it? And they just don't know, or they don't know where the support is. Especially as women, we feel guilty if we do it either way. We feel psychologically we're trying to prove something as a woman business owner, and then we feel guilty because we're leaving our home as well, and leaving our home and leaving our kind of children. And I think I can't say I balanced it 100%, but one thing that I kind of always stress, and this is the thing that I really try and get across when I do kind of courses and I'm speaking with people, is just be really honest and real with where you are.
A one-of-a-kind festival is set to open this summer.
Fashion Meets Music Festival.
The concept truly came about when the two founders went down to Austin, Texas, saw the economic impact that South by Southwest had on the city, and asked the question, why aren't we doing this here in Columbus, Ohio?
Columbus was shut down for this event. We have loads of ideas, and our ideas are big, like revolution, we want to take on the kind of world. And how we got involved is that we brought UK designers out to the US, similar kind of, so we had our own kind of section, which is like the kind of UK kind of space.
Why was it discontinued?
Getting teams together and people that you can rely on and kind of trust and get the vision and understanding of that, that's difficult here and also globally as well. Like we're definitely there, yeah, we can do that. And then we're like sleep for like 3 hours for the week and like hair pulling out and like grey hairs popping up everywhere. And it's like, oh my gosh. But ultimately I think we can. I think it's just, we need more people. We initially started as pop-ups, so it was kind of short-term kind of spaces. And then what we found quite quickly was you'd get repeat kind of customers and they were like, oh, like wanted to come back to it. And especially when we started doing the training in the community, you can't really kind of build a base and build a confidence within yourselves as a business if you're just there for a few weeks.
We have two stores. So we have one main store where we showcase emerging brands and designers, as we usually do. And then we have a second store that we actually use as a revolving pop-up. So there's a lot of those that want to do their own pop-ups. They want their own shops or even as an event space, and that's the store that we use for those people. Moved in here in 2018. Gosh, that seems so long ago. And we used to have our fixed runway, which is part of the Fashion Meets Music brand, like an in-store event space. But due to COVID, we had to break that down. Our runway used to be based here, which would come all the way from the back of here down. So we would host lots of music performances, pop-up PAs, sister circles, which was one of my favourites actually, because we used to have like the big runway and lots of just tables, and then we used to run this event once a month with just women, and we'll just literally just sit on the runway, sit down and just talk about different kind of issues. But also supporting independent, someone had an independent brand, or someone wanted, a mother might be asking a question about school and people could support. And it wasn't literally just like sitting down on the floor having like a girly chat on a Saturday afternoon. This is our workshop, very eco. We cut all these down to make our tables. So this is where we used to host our workshops, run our community programs, run our creative programs. This was our space that we done. And myself and Danica, our bare hands, our fair hands should I say, literally was cutting down workshops, creating our furniture ourselves with this. Yeah, I like this space. Looking at our old units, it was, I actually felt quite proud, because at the time we were doing that, there wasn't a lot of other people doing it. And as black females, I felt we really did make a mark with regards to the pop-up industry. It was quite nostalgic actually, going back and remembering all the stuff that you've done. And I think as a brand, how FMM is at the moment, it's grown and we're doing so many different things, and sometimes you forget what you've done. So it was nice to kind of reflect on that and go through the whole kind of journey.
There'll be designers out there that might feel discouraged because they might not have a big team, they might not have the funds, and they just haven't started. What advice from your experience, what would you tell them?
Consistency and continuity is the most important thing, not how big you do it. It's about being consistent and doing that. I started with no money, there's been no handouts. I started with no time, I still have no time, I still have no money, I'm still here. Just what I mean, and I think ultimately it's about how we kind of like build it and the kind of steps that we take.
I think if I could go back, I would be less free with the information that I give out. I think with young entrepreneurs, obviously you do need to, seek advice from those that know more than you, but I think just be very careful, because not everyone that says they'll help you has your best interests at heart. And before you know it, someone that's in a better position than you is basically doing what you've told them or what you want to do with a different spin on it.
There have been several sleepless nights, there's been tears, there's been absolutely everything you can possibly think of. And that's the reality. But I think definitely having done it so long and in different kind of spaces, I'm now kind of changed that kind of narrative. I think there is kind of a statement as an entrepreneur. You've got to work hard, and you'll have lack of sleep, you won't have no money. And whilst a lot of that is true, but there has to be some self-care element into that, because you can't burn yourself out.
I'm going to be here for a month potentially, and it's a massive store, and we're going to be hosting lots and lots of local brands, designers. There's going to be so many different events, and we're really excited about this one.